What is going on, you beautiful people? I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Edgewater, Colorado. And hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you're interested in maybe learning a little bit more about Denver, some of the surrounding suburbs like Edgewater, make sure and hit the subscribe button down below, hit that bell icon for notifications. That way you can be notified whenever I come out with a new video and you can kind of stay up to date on what's going on in Denver and just keep up with the Denver market. My name is Michael, if you didn't already know, and I get people reaching out all the time looking to make a move to Denver or some of the surrounding areas. So if that's you, whether it's, next week, 10 weeks, whatever it may be, more than happy to help kind of just answer some questions or just kind of guide you, give you a little help in that area. My contact information is below. Feel free to email, text, call, whatever you prefer, and I will see what I can do to help you out. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, if you aren't familiar with Edgewater, Colorado, you wouldn't be alone. It's this little tiny area kind of sandwiched between Wheat Ridge, Denver, and Lakewood. It's kind of right there. It's just west of Sloan's Lake. And Edgewater, whoever came up with the name, very clever, gotta give it to you. But very nice location, has a population of about 5,000 people, so it's pretty small, and everyone's kind of right in one area, so it's pretty dense. There's not really a whole lot of room to build more and kind of get more people, so that might grow a little bit, but it's kind of capped out at where it's at right now. This is actually where I moved when I first moved back from college, and I spent about 2 years in the area, and I absolutely loved it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit, but great place to be. But let's get right into the pros. All right, the first one, and probably my favorite part about Edgewater, is Sloan's Lake Park. So it's this pretty nice sized lake, and there's a nice trail that goes all the way around it, nice running trail. It's a dirt running trail. And then there's a bike path that kind of goes all the way around. So if you're going for a run or you just kind of go for a walk or a bike ride, whatever, skateboard, scooter, anything, you can go around, spend a whole day just kind of hanging out in the park. They have playgrounds on both sides, north and south, and then they even have boat ramps so you can go boating in the summer. It's just really nice. It's just a really nice lake that has a lot of things to do around it. And one of my favorite parts is actually if you stand on either the west side or the east side, you can see so if you're standing on the west side, you can look at the Denver skyline and it'll reflect in the lake. It's really nice. And then same thing on the other side is the mountain range will reflect perfectly just because of the way where the lake is situated in comparison to everything around. You can kind of see everything behind it, and it's just a really pretty sight. So the whole time you're walking around, lovely views all the way around. Another great thing about Edgewater is it's relatively affordable. Median single family home is about $638,000. So very similar to Lakewood in Denver. So I guess if you're trying to get out of the city a little bit or just want something a little bit different, then Edgewater might be a great place. Usually some of those smaller areas will be a little bit more expensive, but it's still relatively affordable, and you could probably find something to rent for similar as the other areas as well. Another great thing about Edgewater is you're right next to Denver. So if you're working in Denver, downtown Denver, just kind of the surrounding areas, you're not gonna have a far commute. You just hop on the road, you're there in 20-25 minutes, depending on the traffic, I guess, when you go to work. But for the most part, you're not driving 45-50 minutes like some people on the outskirts of the Denver area have to do to kind of get to the interior part. And because of where you're located, you're also really close to the mountains. So if you're looking to, go skiing, snowboarding, maybe hiking in the summer, mountain biking, fishing, camping, any of that, Colorado stuff that we like to do out here, you're not gonna have to go too far. You're kind of halfway there already, and you just gotta beat the rest of the Lakewood traffic. That's pretty much it. But for the most part, it's not gonna be a terribly difficult drive to get where you're going to kind of do some of those outdoor activities. Another great thing about Edgewater is they do a lot of community events throughout the year. One of the really big events that they do every single year is the annual Dragon Boat Race Festival. And it's where everyone from, I think, all over the United States actually comes. They decorate a boat like a dragon and they just race them in the lake. Very weird event, but they make a huge thing out of it, and they have street vendors. So, it's like a mini carnival. And the whole lake is just crowded with people, but it's a really cool thing. You can spend a whole day there, and a lot of people look forward to it every single year. Good time, and you don't even have to be in Edgewater to go. Anybody can go to it. So highly recommend if you're in Denver, and it's usually in, I think it's in July. So something to do during the summer. Great way to get outdoors and just kind of go get involved in things. They also have the Colfax Marathon that goes around Sloan's Lake and just kind of up through Lakewood. So very brief, but it does go through Edgewater, and people will all set up all along the lake and just kind of cheer people on as they go by. And they always have like this big drum line. People dress up in costumes, they cheer right around the south side of the park. So just something to do every year. You can kind of walk down there, cheer people on. Great time for everybody, and just something that the community loves doing things. You'll walk through, you'll see posters of things going on all the time. So if you're looking for somewhere that's going to be active and just things going on to get involved, good place for it. And the last thing I'll touch on is there's just plenty of shopping and lots of places for food. So right along the strip, but like between the lake and Edgewater, there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of little shops, there's King Supers, I believe there's a Target, and a lot of like chain restaurants, family-owned restaurants, you name it. They also opened up like a little mini mall right in there. I've actually yet to go since they opened it, but nice little place, and they have all sorts of shopping in there, so you don't really have to go far. I remember when I lived there, we never really had to go anywhere for anything unless, I can't even actually think of a scenario where we left. The only time we really left the area was, if we were going out of town, or there was a taco place that we really liked that was just a little bit south, but only like 2.5 miles from where we lived in Edgewater. So again, pretty much everything you need is right there, other than, if you're going to the mountains or work. Great place overall, great little community, and highly recommend it if you're just kind of looking for something that's a little bit more involved. All right, now for the cons, because it's not perfect. There are definitely some drawbacks, and we'll get into those. All right, the first one, traffic can get really bad at peak hours. So I remember when I was living in the area, most roads are just 2 lanes on both sides, and because of how much traffic is in that area, everyone's trying to get at the same spot. Stoplights will pile up sometimes, and it just gets really congested, especially on Sheridan, which is the road that separates Sloan's Lake and Edgewater. That road just gets so busy, and you'll see people trying to turn into some of the shops, and they just can't ever get in. They're waiting there for 4 or 5 minutes to just get in the shop because there's such a long line of cars, and obviously it's going to take a while because the cars they keep coming. You're also a few blocks off of Colfax, which is also a very popular area and road, so you have a lot of traffic coming in through there trying to get up to Denver, and it's just one of those things that you have to deal with. So if you can avoid it during the peak hours, highly recommend it. The next thing to think about is just how busy everything gets. Because Sloan's Lake is such a popular area, and same with that strip, a lot of people come there. There's a lot of foot traffic, especially during events. It gets pretty crowded. And it's not necessarily uncomfortably crowded, but it's the point where, you might be crowds just kind of brushing by people trying to get by in certain areas. So, if maybe you don't want to be up close and personal with a lot of people, maybe this might not be the place for you, especially up and down the shops too, because, there's limited room in the area, so people are walking up and down. It gets a little busy from time to time. Now, this last one is very unique to the area, but there's a lot of geese that love to hang around Sloan's Lake Park, and it seems like every now and then they all decide, hey, let's go get Taco Bell, and they leave a nice surprise for everybody around the lake the next day, and there's just stuff everywhere. And for about a week and a half, it smells terrible before it just kind of naturally gets washed away. But during that time, you're gonna see a huge decrease in people going to the lake because it just smells really bad. Now, while I lived there, that only happened maybe 2 or 3 times that I can remember. But I have been back to the area since many times, and every now and then I'll see it happen. And it's nothing you can really do about it. It's just nature. But just something to consider. You don't want to, show up the first time. You're like, oh, I heard that one guy said this place is amazing. There's just stuff everywhere. It's just not enjoyable. So it doesn't happen all the time, but just something to consider. And keep in mind that the lake might be closed for a few days at a time every now and then. So I will say definitely some perks and some negatives to living in Edgewater. I guess if you're looking for something a little bit more lively, a little more active, want to be involved in the community, just want to be outdoors a little bit more, might be a great place for you, especially because it's an affordable area. But if maybe you're not necessarily as extroverted as some of your friends or your family, maybe it might not be the best place for you. Maybe you want to get something a little bit further out. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something about Edgewater. Oh, and hey, and don't forget, if you are maybe thinking about moving to Denver, some of the surrounding areas, want a little help, maybe have some questions, feel free to reach out. My contact information is below. I'm more than happy to help you. But until next time, I will see you guys later.